My name is Angela Mercado and I am 46 years old and I would like to discuss American Me. I don't know that I liked the movie per se, but I think that it had a very strong message about choices and poverty and games and the prison system. Edward almost is in the movie, and the plot is about gangsters and poverty and consequences of choices you make, and the consequences of being in a gang and being part of those type of groups, and they end up in prison. The main focus is on Almost, where he ends up in prison as a juvenile, and then he goes to the big time, the big house, for many years. Then he becomes a leader inside, leader of a gang, and he's well respected in there. He made a life up in there. Then he got paroled and he was able to come out, but he couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle life outside. He was so used to being incarcerated since his teen years. So he commits another crime and ends up back in prison, where he ends up dead inside prison. So I think I was around 24 when I saw the movie. 23, 24, I don't quite remember. But I was going through life changes. I'm not sure what half my life wanted to take me. I knew I didn't want to raise children where in the environment that my mother provided. I knew I didn't want to be raising my children in an environment that didn't promote education and advancement as a person, as an individual, professionally. I didn't want that. So I think that that particular movie really impacted me to make permanent life changes. There was just a lot of violence, and even amongst Hispanics, if you're not in the gang, in their gang, then you're the enemy. It wasn't about Hispanics with blacks or whites or skinheads or anything like that. I mean, there were different types of gangs, but it was really, you fought each other just because you didn't belong to a certain gang. But it was the plot, and it kind of struck me because I just thought, I can't be part of stuff like that. There was one particular scene that really struck me, and it wasn't because of the sexual contact of it, but because Edward almost did a lot of his time in prison, so obviously puberty hit, and sexuality was, among men, obviously. They didn't consider themselves homosexuals or anything like that, but that's how they relieved themselves. So when he got out, he got himself a girlfriend, and they were in an intimate scene, and he did what was normal to him. He turned her around and wanted to have normal sex to him, and she was not having it. And that was striking to me, because he was just used to that. He wasn't used to being with a woman. He was used to being with men, in that sense. It was part of life in prison, I guess. I don't know. Never been a big time, at least. I don't think the film accurately depict Hispanic culture. I don't think all Hispanics live that way. There are all kinds of Hispanics. Now, that type of Hispanic, the gangster type, is mainly, from what I could tell, and maybe now being a little bit older and have more knowledge of life, gangsters who are Hispanics are mainly Hispanics who are born here to immigrant parents. And why do I think that? Because Hispanics who are immigrated here, who comes here, they're here to work. And they end up having family. And most of the time, some of those families don't raise those kids. The streets raise those kids. And they're Hispanic. Now, that's not the case for a lot of people. But from what I could tell, those gangsters are U.S. citizen. They're from here, but they're Hispanic. And they live still... There's a lot of people who don't have that change of mentality. They still live like in Ghettoville or low budget housing because they want to save as much money to send back home. Yet their families are living in poverty. They live are surrounded by a society of crime and violence, and there is no change. And yet they don't see the need to upscale and to move to something better and to teach their kids to go to school and better themselves. Like, again, that's not everybody, but a lot of the Hispanics, those are their lives. That's why they live. You sometimes walk into Little Mexico because they don't want to change. This is the land of the free, the American. You can have the American dream, but to them, the American dream is make money and send it back home and build a house that you may never live in, or support people that you may never see again. That's my thought on that.